A very good evening to you and welcome to Primetime News on NTV Sports live from the News First studios in Colombo. I'm Nadim Majid.
Hello there, and I'm Kaushi Vijayasekara. Let's start off with a look at your headlines tonight.
Making headlines this evening, Defence Secretary Gotabaya Rajapaksa says that Sri Lankans should be able to live in any part of the country. Showers expected in many areas. Meanwhile, a fire erupts in the Nilgala Forest Reserve. Mahaweli B-zone farmers inconvenienced by the lack of fertilizer.
Before we take a look at local news, former British Prime Minister Tony Blair told an inquiry that British leaders were forced to court powerful press barons such as Rupert Murdoch or risk savage media attacks which render them unable to govern effectively. However, Blair was interrupted by a heckler who accused him of being a war criminal for supporting the US invasion of Iraq. Blair paused briefly before continuing to justify his ties to Murdoch, with whom he said he developed a close friendship. Let's now take a look at the footage where a protester accused the former British Prime Minister of being a war criminal.
This man should be arrested for war crimes. JP Morgan paid him off for the Iraq war. 3 months after we invaded Iraq, they held up the Iraq bank for $20 billion. He was then paid $6 million every year and still is from JP Morgan 6 months after he left office. The man is a war criminal.
Well, moving on to one of our headline-making stories, Defence Secretary Gotabaya Rajapaksa says that it is not correct to view the north of Sri Lanka as a predominantly Tamil area, adding that any Sri Lankan should have the freedom to live wherever they want to in the country. He expressed this view in an interview with the British Broadcasting Corporation.
So would you accept that the north of Sri Lanka should be seen as a predominantly Tamil place?
Why should be that? If the south, I come from Hambantota. When I was small, I didn't see any Tamil family in this area. But today, there are so many Tamil families. Why? So then why can't it happen same thing in the north?
Secretary,
so that is, if you are a Sri Lankan citizen, you must be able to go and buy the properties from anywhere. I'm not talking about forced settlements. I'm talking about the freedom for a Sri Lankan to live anywhere in this country.
Secretary, I need to ask you about some human rights issues. There have been dozens of disappearances, many of them in Colombo, just since October.
These are wrong allegations.
They're not wrong allegations because I've met the victims.
Don't get angry. Usually I get angry, so you don't get angry. Okay? You don't get angry. I'm the Secretary of Defense. I have investigated this. You don't take the word from these people. Take the word from me. These are lies to give a wrong image of Sri Lanka by the rump of this LTT who's remaining in outside and trying to damage the image of Sri Lanka.
The UN's human rights chief and several foreign countries say that there must be some kind of accountability process in respect of thousands or tens of thousands of civilians who died towards the end of the war.
That aspect, I think we have been very professionally addressed it. That is why, when the biggest allegation was about the civilian casualties.
And what is Sri Lanka doing about that?
We have done a lot. We have done a lot. From the census department, they carried out a census in this area. The officials, participated in this census were 100% Tamil officers who are working in this region.
But it showed 8,000 or 9,000 civilian deaths, something like that. So what is going to be done to punish the perpetrators?
Wrong word, not civilians. Do you think that, was it a battle between the Sri Lankan army and the civilians? Do you believe that? It's a battle between army and the terrorist group, which were armed equally, armed like the Sri Lankan military. Remember, nobody talks about where are the now in this within this 7,000 odd number. That includes the combatants as well. No, you don't believe. Do you think that the army was fighting with somebody, imaginary force? Where are the combatants?
President Mahinda Rajapaksa presided at an event to commemorate the 100th birth anniversary of Kusuma Gunawardena. A commemorative stamp and a first day cover were issued to mark the occasion.
Speaking at the event, the President noted that Kusuma Gunawardena was a woman who made the country proud and was a mother who produced great children. Kusuma Gunawardena, who was born on the 26th of May 1912, was elected to the first parliament in 1948 without a contest. A group including Ministers Geethanjali Gunawardena and Dinesh Gunawardena, as well as Governor Alavi Maulana, participated in the function to hand over the commemorative stamp and first day cover to the President.
Now, in other local news, the United National Party charges that the local institutions ruled by the government are rife with problems. UNP media spokesperson, parliamentarian Gayantha Karunatilaka, made this allegation at a media briefing convened in Colombo today.
දැන් බලන්න ආණ්ඩුවේ පළාත් පාලන ආයතන සියල්ලම වාගේ කචල් වෙනවා. මෙවැනි අර්බුද ඇතුළට
Almost all the local institutions under the government rule are facing problems. The latest is the Colombo Municipal Council, where a serious issue has arisen with regard to the position of leader of the opposition. All the councillors are claiming to be the opposition leader, but the three frontrunners are Maruf, Mansil and Asad Salih. A crisis similar to this has cropped up even within the government. The senior ministers of the government have one view, the cabinet of ministers have another, and the deputy ministers yet another. Then there are those who have not received ministerial portfolios who have formed a separate group. MP Gayantha Karunatilaka also spoke about former Army Commander Sarath Fonseca. Now look at the big fraud that was staged last week. The government said it released the great war hero Sarath Fonseca and that he was granted freedom. However, he was granted only limited freedom. His hands are tied. We challenge the government to grant him complete freedom, withdraw all charges against him and provide him with the opportunity to contest at elections.
Still in local news, Minister Mahinda Amaraveera claims that the opposition leader has no intention of coming into power. The minister made this comment during a function held in the Ambala area in Beliatta.
Ranil Wickramasinghe's main task these days is to conduct disciplinary inquiries against Sajith Premadasa and Karu Jayasuriya. He does not plan to come into power. He just wants to remain as the opposition leader. If Karu Jayasuriya wants to take up a post in the country, he will have to think again, as he will not be able to do it on that side.
Now, just 60 days to go for the greatest sporting event on earth, the 2012 London Olympic flame travelled 108.43 miles through 15 communities on day 10 of the torch relay.
Torchbearer Carwyn Richards carried the Olympic flame as it began its journey on the funicular cliff railway in Abritus on day 10 of the London 2012 Olympic torch relay. A total of 84 torchbearers, including champion mountain runner Malcolm Jones and ocean rower Eileen Davis, carried the flame before it arrived at the evening celebration in Bangor, where a cauldron was lit to mark the culmination of the day's festivities. The final torchbearer of the day was world-famous baritone opera and concert singer Brian Terfel. Meanwhile, former Sri Lanka rugby captain Nalaka Virakodi extended his well wishes to the athletes who will represent Sri Lanka at the 2012 London Olympics.
ශ්‍රී ලංකා ජාතික රව කණ්ඩායමේ හිටපු නායකයෙකු
As a former captain of the Sri Lanka rugby team, I wish the Sri Lanka team taking part in this year's London Olympics all the courage and luck to perform exceptionally well. I hope they would be able to bring glory to the country.
Welcome back to the news. In our developing story tonight, the Met Department says that showers are expected in the western Sabaragamu and central provinces as well as in the Galle and Matara districts during the morning hours. Now, the duty meteorologist D.A. Jaisingharachi said that strong winds will be experienced from the southwest accompanied by rain.
When
the southwestern monsoon commences, the thunder showers will reduce. However, showers will continue. The sea could be rough in the southwest, southeast and Mannar areas. According to the Met Department, the highest rainfall in the 24 hours that concluded at 8:30 this morning was reported from the Kukuleganga area, which was measured at 42 millimeters. Colombo reported a rainfall of 38.9 millimeters, while Labugama reported a rainfall of 34.5 millimeters and Ratnapura 29.9 millimeters. Meanwhile, dry rations were distributed among those affected by floods in the Mativilia Gramaseva division in Elpitia.
Even though showers have been reported from various parts of the island, a fire erupted in the Nilgala Forest Reserve in Bibila, which has been experiencing dry weather conditions. Forest officer of Bibila ICCAir Vijay Tilaka said the fire erupted at around 2 p.m. today. He noted that the fire had been spreading owing to the dry weather condition in the area. Several groups have been deployed to douse the fire.
And up next is Action TV.
Water was released for the paddy lands in the Mahaveli B zone in Polonnaruwa for the Yala season on the 20th of April. Accordingly, a majority of farmers within the Manampitiya Agrarian Services Division took steps to complete sowing their fields by the end of April. However, farmers alleged that the Manampitiya Agrarian Services Centre had not made the necessary preparations to provide the state fertilizer concession just as in the previous years. The only concession we have been receiving thus far was the fertilizer concession, but the farmers in Veeralanda are yet to receive fertilizer. Now it has been weeks since the lands were sown. Fertilizer should be used after the fields are sown. Urea should be used within 14 days. But all these paddy lands in Veeralanda have been sown at least 25 days ago. Most of the farmlands have not received any fertilizer. Now it is time to use fertilizer, but we have not received fertilizer. The agri official is not fulfilling her duties properly, and it is the people who have been made to suffer. When the Regional Agriculture Research Officer was informed regarding the delay in supplying fertilizer, she had stated that such a situation has cropped up since she has to oversee 3 villages. However, more than 240 farmers have missed out on using fertilizer in their farmlands on 3 occasions thus far. The farmers constantly come to us and ask when they would receive fertilizer. Now we have reached a point where we have to abandon our lands and go into hiding. Therefore, we have resigned from the farmer organizations. Anyone is welcome to accept these positions. Although farmers are waiting for the fertilizer that needs to be used in paddy lands in the Mahaveli B zone in the next stage, the Manampitiya Agrarian Services Office has barely paid attention to this. It is uncertain if these paddy lands would yield the expected harvest, as concessions have not been provided to the farmers. It is also unclear as to whether the aspirations of the government to export rice would come true, considering the lethargy of the officials. Shouldn't the distribution of fertilizer in the Mahaveli B zone be streamlined at least now? District Secretary of Polonnaruwa, this is over to you.